Hello everyone, I'm Hideaki Ogawa from Ars Electronica Futurelab. Welcome back to Ars Electronica Home Delivery. Today we are broadcasting this as a live from Linz of Austria. Here Linz around 8:30 and a little bit cloudy today, but I hope you are fine today. Today, the second edition of the Artistic Journalism Public Lecture is focusing on here, the Alchemists of the Future exhibition held in the Ars Electronica Center. Today, I'm planning to take a journey, as if you are going through the physical newspaper, in the Ars Electronica Center, which is not anymore just reading the newspaper on the news, but I'm gonna take you to, to the experience. Here is full of new experience for the future. And so after in the tour, you will meet some key persons. Today, I have a couple of guests like Horst Hortner, who is managing the senior director of the Ars Electronica Futurelab, and later also another person, Christoph Kremer, who is a managing director of Ars Electronica Center, will be participating in this wonderful, charming journey to the future. As I did last time, if you have any questions and comments, please post through the YouTube Live. So you can log in and you can leave your comments, and I'm trying to extract your comments and also questions in the context, hopefully. And okay, then let's take on the journey. So welcome to the Ars Electronica Center again. So this exhibition is focusing again the alchemist of the future. Do you know what's an alchemist? What's alchemy? Maybe alchemist sounds like old and quite weird, maybe, depending on the person. Alchemist used to be a very hybrid kind of really activities between art and the science. So considering the activities, Futurelab, it might be very interesting to connect to the old metaphor of alchemy, to envision the future. So why I'm taking you to a journey of this Alchemists of the Future is because this year Ars Electronica celebrates 25th years anniversary. By the way, Futurelab itself, let's go to the description, explanation about the Futurelab. Ars Electronica Futurelab is a laboratory and atelier for the Ars Electronica Futurelab, and we create tangible future through the prototypical approach. For example, you can see nice examples in our histories. Maybe the spaxels might be one of the most famous example that Futurelab invented in 2012. So we have many interesting diversity to address the future. So then connecting to artistic journalism, So if we are talking about artistic journalism to discuss the future, I think our laboratory, how our laboratory and researchers are creating the future might be interesting hints for all of you guys. Then if you are interested in our activities, I would like to also introduce our new publication, Alchemists of the Future, and actually you can download for free from the website of Ars Electronica. So you can see diversity of our activities over 25 years. Then let's go to the first stop of the journey. The first project is titled Memo Room. Look, and maybe the camera would be approaching to this. This is asking you about what's the future of rituals. How would you like to leave your message for the future? So if you are interested in participating in this initiative, just scan the QR code. Maybe once again you can approach. If you scan the QR code, you can participate in a special questionnaire to think of the future by yourself in your private sphere. This concept was, and also system was developed by one of the researchers, Susanne Kiesenhofer from Futurelab. And her idea was connecting to 25th year's anniversary. She wanted to really address the meaning of digital data and also the meaning of rituals, as I said. So in our digital society, we are preserving the data in the hard disk or on the cloud, so-called. And there are many technologies to archive the data into biology, biotechnologies, biomethods, or even blockchains. There are many ways to archive the digital data. But what she suggested the participant was, after actually you leave your voice for the future, all voices are recorded digitally, but at the end of this year, all digital data will be preserved in this binary record. Binary record is maybe popular for your young generation, but of course, the binary words disappeared in the digitalizing process. But once again, to remind and to address the meaning of medium. So what's the importance of analog physical opportunities, and what's the advantage of digital? And in this project, actually 2046, 25 years later, the next future of members needed to understand the way to utilize this data. Then so they needed to invent the new rituals. So what's going to be new future of rituals, and what's going to be the resonance in the future? So this is one of the typical example how such alchemists, in a way, the future artists, researchers are creating the idea for discussing the future. Then let's go to the next project. Next project is a little bit different topics, but artificial intelligence, but still talking about what's the benefit of digital, but what's the humanizing technologies, not just limited to within the domain of digital, but how to humanize such digital interactions. This project is a collaboration with Wacom, which is known as manufacturing and companies of this digital pen and tablet. Our journey as a collaboration between Futurelab Alchemists and Wacom were creating Future Ink. Wacom, of course, create many digital services and products based on digital ink. Digital ink is trying to reduce noise. Noise is not good, for digital technologies. But our idea in this year's collaboration was to focus on the noise. Can you imagine in our time, in the digital age, what's the meaning of noise? Maybe when you are alone, you might listen to some noise, and the noise might be sounding like noise, but depending on the context, it's different. But in this project, AI Ink is focusing on the collaboration between human and AI to compose a special music using our human's noise. just look. In this interface, you can draw your last year as your emotional status as a drawing like this. I was a little bit bad in July, and September I was good, you know. And in this way, I needed to, you know, express this. Then, so when I compose, so actually the input from digital data was considered as a temperature and, in a way, noise to the AI system. And our special system called Richelka, developed by Ali Nikran, is digesting the temperature and the noise to compose a special personalized emotional music, in this case, Blue Danube. You know, Blue Danube is dun, 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 dun. You can listen a little bit, you know, the original, you know, music. But it's, you know, personalized, and it's really, you know, changed through the collaboration with the artificial intelligence. What if, you know, we are connecting individual participants, you know, ideas, and what kinds of, you know, one music can be created? So it's in a way a collective, you know, results through this participatory process. So I think one of the point of artistic journalism is how to, you know, let people participate in such unique experience, you know, before knowing about the information technologies or artificial intelligence's value. But I think this kind of, you know, experience allows us to stop to think, oh, by the way, what shall we do, you know, for the future? So in the context of this Future Inc. project, also we create a prototype called BioInc. You know, while AI Inc. focuses on the interaction between human and AI, BioInc. is focusing on human-nature collaboration. So by utilizing the pen again, digital pen, but what you draw is also used as a place where the BioInc. is coming in. BioInc. means living ink. BioInc. can be, of course, there are many types of the bacteria to be contained, and meaning, you know, for after several days, the digital data is going to be growing. You know, what's the meaning of such a growing process? What if, you know, your creative result can be growing after the digital process, but naturally converted to be the biological process? I think this project addresses also the importance how to collaborate with nature, you know, in the also difficult time of the climate, you know, change. And also we needed to be aware of the way to create the new language between human and also planet and also the other species. Then let's go to next one. So we've discussed about future of the ink. You know, as I said, you know, this is a kind of, you know, physical newspaper, and we visited what's the future of the data, what's the future of interaction and the ink. Then next one is about, again, how to open the, you know, discussions to the public in terms of surveillance and also dangers of artificial intelligence, but not just dangers, but new aspect about the usage of the artificial intelligence. So what a ghost dreams of is, actually I made this piece as an artist, and this project is a project to generate your the non-existing faces based on the input from visitor's face. But as you saw, watch at the footage, we are, you know, visitors' face are constantly captured and they are converted through the process of GAN system, and it will be creating non-existing phases in the theory. So what's the ghost? The ghost means, in my case, artificial intelligence. What's the meaning of the ghost in our time, and what the humans dreams of? So in this way, in Ars Electronica Center, you can physically dive into not just one topic, but you can really think about the combinations about hybrid small micro trends, like what's the surveillance in our time, and what's the behind of the system, and how to utilize the data, but what's the copyright and ownership, and what's the role of artists to utilize AI systems, and so on, and so on, and so on. So many questions are created from the experience. I think the power of artistic journalism is exactly the point. As I said, about questioning. Questions can give you the opportunity not just digesting the information as a news. How about slow news? Not just fast food, fast news to react to, be emotional. How to, think about something deeply. I think this is an advantage by having this kind of physical experience in the Ars Electronica Center. All right? Then so next project is calling you very physical actions. The project title is Hands for the Future. This is developed by Ars Electronica Futurelab. And by the way, what I showed today is only Futurelab-related project. Under the Alchemists of the Future, we exhibit over 20 pieces. Unfortunately, today only, we are going through the ground floor, but this is also one of the big projects developed by Ars Electronica Futurelab, Alchemist. Look, maybe you can find a new digital deal, then so many tiny black parts. And if you are watching at that black parts, carefully, you might be able to find something. Yes, it's hands. They are full of many hands from visitors. In this installation, depending on the time, this time new digital deal, this is a kind of one discussion, very important discussion that we Ars Electronica would like to develop. And if you are interested in participating in this discussion, we are very happy to let you participate. Then for doing so, you can raise your hand, you can be a part of this discussion. So here's a station. And if I raise your hand, this hand's recognition camera detect my, face and hands. Then this scanned, in a way, image will be sent, and in maybe 30 seconds, it's going to be displayed. While we are waiting for that, I would like to explain about the background of this display. This display you can find in the normal supermarket. Probably you can find it to check the price. It means price tag is a normal kind of usage for this product. And we found there are many stocks, but it's not used because of the small damages. And how to utilize and recycle those remained damaged products for creating the social discourses. So this was a story behind this project. And also this doesn't have the constant electric consumption. Of course, it has a battery, but there are no cabling. So in a way, it can be starting to discuss what's the media without electricity. Of course, still there are many components and also back-end system, but at least we, Futurelab, would like to discuss what can we do for such urgent, deep issues. Then let's get into another big our development and invention called deep space. This is one of the most interesting, I would say, research platform and also platform for experiencing and testing such artistic journalism. So welcome to the deep space. So at Ars Electronica Center, probably you might be a little bit surprised. So this has 16 by 9 meter, and there we can project for both wall and ground floor as 8K projections. And later, we are explaining more details about this idea, technical background, and also applications about the way to utilize this environment for discussing the artistic journalism. But here, great. As I said, there's a super guest in our journey. This was a journey, by the way, we spent a journey together with many pupils all over the world, and we met you here. So I would like to introduce Horst Hortner, who is a managing and senior director and a founder of Ars Electronica Futurelab. I just explained about the Alchemists by the Futurelab researchers, and I showed a couple of examples only on the ground floor though. But I'm very happy that you could give us your experience, ideas, and how you are creating. What's the behind it, and what's the system, creative system. So.
Thank you very much, Hide. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy. I mean, that's, the most beloved thing is to talk about the Futurelab anyway.
Yes, anyway.
Thank you very much.
Let's start,
Horst. I will. The Futurelab's projects and activities are concentrating on, as the name already says, the future, our future. And we try to generate sketches, if you want to say so, of the future, but not for the sake of its own, but for the sake of igniting a discussion, a discourse about what does this technology, this scientific outcome mean to us as an individual, but also mean to us as a society. And we do this with scientific exploration, we do this with artistic expression, also always the social impact of our activities in the back of our minds. We are active in several fields. These all lead to one consequence, that we try to understand the challenges of our society, name it the climate change, name it the digital transformation, not as a technological challenge on the first place. We see that as a challenge for our society, and that we need to find and experiment how to navigate through this change, this global change that has to happen, together with a broad, very broad audience. That is at least what we try to, in different perspectives, on co-creating the future, understanding that every decision that we make every day is actually creating the next tomorrow. Understanding also that we need to find participation as a common field, but also trying to understand that we need to tangibly, accessibly have access to the future sketches, to those future technologies, to those future visions that are carrying us for moving on. These are the members of the Futurelab of 2021. It's a very, very diverse background, educational background. It's artists, it's physicists, it's architects, it's civil engineers, it's telematicians, it's software engineers, it's media planners, it's a wide row of biochemistry, communication science, so humanities and natural science, as well as technical sciences and engineering are based in this group. And in this group, we're different from universities. We're not faculty-based. So it's not like that the physicists sit together and the mathematicians sit together and the musicians sit together. It's a very, very transdisciplinary endeavor. And we create research questions along those transdisciplinary lines. We are not doing this alone. We're having the partners with us, supporting us in our activities. And this is just a very short summary of some of our partners in the academic world, but also in the industrial world. And in some sense, the industrial world is even more important to us. And why? Because we are not base funded. So we don't have any funding. We need to generate our activities and the financial backing for our activities by the collaboration with the industry. And we're very proud to have like very big names along the line as well, like Honda R&D. You remember Asimo. Several years ago we have worked with him, SAP, Volkswagen, Intel, Daimler, Audi, Siemens, name it, BMW, etc. But also, of course, the academic partnership is highly important to us because we are doing research. We are working on a methodology to go deeper in understanding the consequences, the meaning of scientific outcome. Very often we get asked where we are, who we are. Are we a university? Are we a company? And the answer is no. We're not in the academic world, as well as we are not in the economical environment. We are not a business entity per se. We are positioned from the very beginning in 1996 in between. There was a very, very small slot, so to speak, in between the academic world and the economy. This slot over the years have become bigger, but that's only good for us. This slot, this is where the Futurelab is positioned. And why did we do so? First of all, we have to understand that in the academic world, in the academic system, especially here in Europe, but I think it's worldwide comparable, there are very strong KPIs to, for example, deliver publications and papers that you need to rank up in order to, follow the KPIs, to follow your goals as a researcher. Which means that you, for example, as a chemist, would work very, very intense on chemistry and publish your papers in the corresponding magazine. Very difficult also, is it, to work transdisciplinary and publish in this crossover environment. There's very, 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 very few magazines that would support that. On Nature, transdisciplinarity is a weakness still in the academic world. It's happening here and then, but the system itself doesn't really support that. So that's why we wanted to be outside of that environment, to be able and free to discuss and work with all the different scientific disciplines in a very, very strong transdisciplinary manner. Having artists working with biologists, having musicians working with physicists, and probably potentially even creating not even music or physics, creating visuals. This is the goal of the projects and our transdisciplinary setting on the one hand. On the other hand, we are not in the economic world neither. So for us, it was a very important decision to have, which was we are not applied to make profit. That means the economical KPI worldwide, the global KPI of growth, doesn't really meet the Ars Electronica Futurelab. Ars Electronica Futurelab doesn't have to concentrate on growth, doesn't have to concentrate on publication. We can do it, of course. We can and are allowed to grow as well as we are allowed to publish, and we do publish. We run patents, and the Ars Electronica Futurelab has several of them, but it's not a KPI for the Futurelab. The KPI for the Futurelab is more on the relevance to our society. The output of a project needs to be judged by its relevance for our global society, for our communities, local communities, for an individual. That keeps a lot of, let's say, concentration free. All of a sudden, you can have, not following the one or the other KPIs, enough time and energy to concentrate on the content that you're working on, to concentrate on the actual project. And this very nice position makes it possible for the Futurelab even to work with all the different disciplines in the economic world as well, even with competitors at the same time. Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen are competing, but they don't have any problem at the same time working with us, generating these visions for like 20, 25, 30 years ahead. This is where our home base is. So the transdisciplinary not only works in the research environment, it also works in a competitive economical environment. How do we do that? We are here at the research topics. These research topics are generated, as I said before, very, very, very independent from a single discipline, single academic disciplines. Independent insofar as we try to create research topics that would allow as many as possible different disciplines to contribute to the research activity, to contribute to the question of the specific research field. So it's a very open mindset. It's based on research questions that allows per se to incorporate transdisciplinary approaches in the question on the first place. And this is the 10 that are now here active in 2021. The topics are changing, people are changing. We are trying to increase, of course, our research fields and try to also constantly look for the most relevant topics that we would have to cover right now from our perspective. But how do we do that? I mean, once you're in this key research, you're active with your topic, you're active with all the different partners that you're working with. How do we jump from that platform of ideas into increasing the platform and the number of ideas? We have chosen one methodology, that is the Futurelab Ideas Expedition. The Futurelab Ideas Expedition is a call out for ideas within the Futurelab. And everybody, like even the members that are at the laboratory since a week or so, they could contribute their ideas to this. It's not a competition, it's an, as I said, expedition. The outcome is that we three, Roland Haring, Ogawa-san and myself, we try to select the best promising, the surprising ideas out of that. And the award is not an award that the idea carrier is receiving. The award goes to the person who brought the idea to help this person to realize this idea within the Futurelab. So it's a production fund that is taken to be used for the production, for the environment of the idea, to realize it at the Futurelab, and ideally always every year before the Ars Electronica Festival, of course, because that's where we want to show it. So that is one of the aspects that we are trying to undertake, to get this very, very intersective, transdisciplinary focus that we need, as the Ars Electronica is working in this triangle of art, technology, and society. And in that nexus, the wording explains already, it has to be highly transdisciplinary. One final session I would like to start here, and that is the question on how can we integrate in those huge topics that are representing our future at the moment, the big changes that are ahead. But when you look how our society has changed from 1962 to today. In 1962, Humble is now ExxonMobil, oil-producing company. Humble posted this advertisement in the Life magazine. And it says, each day Humble supplies enough energy to melt 7 million tons of glacier. That was an achievement at that time, seen as something positive. We now know where it really leads to. It took 59 years now to understand there's something wrong with that approach. We have understood for the future. I don't think we have 59 years left to actually take action. So how can we kick off? How can we start movement? Journalism is one way to do it, and it's been out there for several decades already. And I just quoted one that is the International Monetary Fund. I mean, that's not Greenpeace, right? That's like the really very traditional and financially economically based group or environment institution. We have about a decade, and that was 2020. So I'd say we have 8 years now to make this change happen. We have all that information available. We have all that information published in magazines, in books, in websites, whatsoever. Still, it's not enough for us to feel, to experience the consequences if we do not react. Journalism is creating opinion, but it's art that creates the meaning. Art provides experience. So you can have experiencing the consequences of the climate change, for example, in an artistic environment. It still has the same impact. It still has the same driving force, is understanding, discussing, igniting a discourse about this global change that is necessary. And it's just one example that I'm showing here. Was award winner last year at the Staatspreis that the Ars Electronica is also running for the European Commission. It's a very, very important, I think, very, very important frame on what Hide has formed with this artistic journalism thread, is that we are creating visions and that we are creating opinions and meanings with that thread. We are creating that not for the sake of the art, we are not creating that for the sake of technology or for science. We are creating that for the sake of our future society. That's it so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Horst. Wonderful. And I'm very inspired from your last slide. You know, of course, we know each other well about the, the first parts, about the recipe of the creative system as Futurelab. But the final part, how to frame the journalism as, journalism creates opinion and art creates meaning. Very interesting hints also for understanding the artistic journalism, which is not established at all. This is kind of new approach, and also in a way mindset also for everyone to have your own experience, physical experience, rather than just reading the book, to dive into the future experience and interactions. And in this case, I think this the definition was very interesting. And thinking about the journalism, of course, there are many, popping up issues about journalism, because I think all of you guys, and including really everyone, struggle with also the information, around us, like from social media, and also living in a way in the filter bubbles, So the information and the news, values are drastically changing. So, Horst, how do you feel about this, change of the meaning of the news? Because, and also journalism as well. Journalism is now very, facing to the fundamental, point, where to go, as a journalism. What do you think about this?
I think, jumping back to the 90s when Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web, we were all totally inspired by that idea of, the global village, the digital village that would bring together all the different groups of interest into your neighborhood virtually. What we did not see at the first set on that is that we're not creating one global village. We have been creating several global villages that are completely separated from each other. The ecospheres, we call it now. Still, it's a very global communication going on, a very, very global infrastructure, but it's very, very cut down in a narrow opinion set, if you want to say so. And sometimes not only opinion set, but truth set. There are obviously different versions of truth at the very moment. I think that is only to overcome if we try to open up the silos, if we try to open up those villages to work in more like a membrane. And how to do it, I don't know. We need to provide or prepare infrastructures that would allow so. I do think, of course, that art could be a fundamental role in that, because art can be very easily accessible. And that is a very, very beneficial character of artistic output. A very stupid example is you don't have to study composition in order to follow a concert. You can go into a concert as the, so to speak, untrained audience and still enjoy or hate. You still can kind of react emotionally to what you experience. And I think that is a very, very key element, that we need to find these accessible, tangible positions where we reach more than one digital village and create offers, proposals on that. As I tried to explain, ignite a discourse, and just like, let's hope that we can still at least talk to each other when we meet on such an interactive, tangible infrastructure.
Yeah, I think art is deep enough, and it's not like just design the news. Design can be, of course, maybe for readers and everyone easy to, take and easy to understand. But artistic approach might be giving it a little bit time, for them to stop to think.
That's a very important. I think what you say is on the point, because there's so many different understandings on how to integrate different sectors with art. We have quite a lot of experience in doing that with science and art, and very often, or even journalism and art, very often it can be understood as utilizing art for the beautification of a scientific outcome or a journalistic outcome. Or the art itself is utilizing a scientific outcome or a journalistic outcome and just bring it, let's say, into a gallery. So it's, as long as we are not stepping over the borders of disciplines in terms of a deep collaboration, so that the outcome potentially can have traces in your own discipline. Like if you're a journalist and work with an artist, then the outcome should make yourself think about your own discipline, as well as if you're a scientist or so. And that is also true for the artists. So the artists need to be open enough to join this adventure.
Absolutely. And by the way, this year, we celebrate 25th year's anniversary as Futurelab. And how do you feel the role of art has changed from 25 years ago to now? Because I don't know 25 years ago, but is it not changing at all? Or, as you introduced the example, of course, artists are more, urgently emerged and positioned and acting, for the society more than, behove. Or what do you think about the change?
Yes, both. Kind of. I think that like in the early times, think about the festival in '83 or in '79. These were people who had an idea about the influence of that future technologies to our society, and they tried to express that with the use of the technologies, making it somehow tangible. And that's still the case. It's the same infrastructure happening now. But at these early stages, it was very, very difficult to get in touch with those technologies. They weren't like available everywhere. In '79, there was no Apple II and there was no PC. So at this time, these were fields of experts, really, who were experts in both fields, in the technology as well as in the society. What has changed since then is also from, I would say, a broader arts community. At this time, these activities were not seen as art. These were tech demos, what had this to do with art kind of reaction, what was there at the very beginning. And that was still true in 25 years ago. So in 1996, this was a question, is that art at all? On the other side, the, let's say, academic world or the engineering world didn't take that for serious neither, because that's speculative, it's like, or provocative, or, all those artistic methodologies that have been proven as functional methodologies in the expression of art are not allowed in science, for example. So they also looked at it very critical. We can say 40 years later, now we have a totally different mindset in all the participating fields. in the scientific world, as well as in the arts, as well as in our education. I mean, even in 1996, there were no media art classes in the world. It just didn't happen. That started in 2000 and ongoing. And by that also the interest group, so to speak, the target group of the thoughts of the Ars Electronica, the DNA of the Ars Electronica has been growing. And all of a sudden, this art intersection with different disciplines, or with journalism also, has been a growing topic as well in the active field. And now we can see that it's not only a few experts or a few freaks who would be active in that field. Now it's becoming more and more, I would even say mainstream, to intersect with this very, very promising approach of integration of different disciplines to just find new inspiration, just find new possibilities to express something, tangible, accessible ways to lead into a new topic, into a new discussion.
Absolutely. And in this sense, our Futurelab, in a way, our prototypes has been, in a way, artistic journalism, projects. Because, don't you think, because together with development of technologies, our artists and our collective represented created new expressions to make a new dialogue for the topic. And but in your experience, what is important when creating artistic journalism? Do you have any kind of things that the next artist needed to take care, or the journalist needed to take care, or the participations? And because if I started to discuss about the existing journalism, what if the journalists are together with some powers? If the persons are translating what the power authority wanna convey, it's also same for scientists. In a way, convenient scientists might be able to create the knowledge to guide the society to be wrong direction. Do you know what I mean? So this case, what I feel the potential of artistic journalism is also different force to stop it. But on the other hand, if there is a convenient artist to make a different meaning, so it's dangerous. So in this way, I think since this is not established at all, and many artists and also many people are starting to express different forms of this kind of social connected, initiatives. So if you have any kind of ideas about the points that we needed to take care, we needed to respect, we needed to consider, so just let me know.
That's a very critical momentum, I would say, and a very it's not an easy to answer question. First of all,
absolutely.
I think, and that's always what I say if I talk to students, ignore everything that everybody else is telling you. Do your thing, go forward, get active. But he is right, there is a but. But I think the fundamental necessity of research in journalism as well as in art is not to be ignored at all. You have to know exactly what you are talking about. You have to know exactly where you are leading to. You have to know exactly the constraints, and it has to be based on facts. It has to be based on positions that are, withstanding the scientific requirements. Do your research. Get deep into the topic. Don't just play around, because at the end, if you don't go to that deep portion of understanding, first of all, you don't learn anything about this new topic. Second of all, your outcome is most likely to become a deck demo or whatever surface that you can write on. I think that's the fundamental request that we have to fulfill, both as artists, but also as journalists, to do the homework as good as we can, as best as we can, and start from there.
It's a really fantastic answer. So about the importance of research, taking time, carefully investigations, and also conveying the process to the public in transparent way, but also in a creative way. I think that's definitely necessary process. Okay, our mission, as Futurelab, creating the future, can be said to be to create in a way news. Don't you think?
Well, the future is always new.
Exactly, and also it can be considered news.
Yeah.
A little bit positive discussion to the end is what kind of future news shall we create together?
That's interesting.
Open discussion.
Open discussion.
Of course, please think about also in your side. What kind of future news would you like to, create? What do you think, host?
That's
as our Futurelab.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah. But I very, very fundamentally believe in humanism.
Yeah.
It's just like has to be said. And Ars Electronica, as an institution, is based on those fundamentals as well, since the founding years with Hannes Leopoldsäder. I think that this humanism perspective has been under attack from, especially when it comes to the digital world that we live in at the moment, the technosphere that we are surrounded, have been under pressure from a totalitarian aspect, digital totalitarism, tracking everybody, getting surveillance possibilities as high as possible on the one hand. And I'm not only talking about the military systems that are used, I'm talking about systems in our civil society. And on the other hand, there is the digital capitalism that is acting as landlords, getting the acres that we are working on, the data acres that we are working on, and just make their living on our daily life, on our daily activities, on the one hand. So both isn't really compatible with a fully kind of driving force of humanism. And this, I would say, is the news that, or it's not the news, it's actually the fundamentals. But that is something where I would think that the news will be in line with also in the future, is that digital humanism needs to be understood and activated.
Yeah. Definitely, we Futurelab is very happy to really make the tangible, future, and also open it to the public, because news is not just delivered. News. It's not our news what we intended, right? Our approach is to create such a news together with citizens, people. As you mentioned about humanity, humanism, and also these new notions needed to be, together with people, right?
So in terms of participation and
exactly.
co-creation of the future, I think that's a fundamental request.
I think so too.
Very true.
Yeah, great, because after this session, we are focusing on this deep space, which means a platform, to open this process to the public, right? Mm-hmm. Deep space, and also our Futurelab media creation, in a way, is always trying to create a platform, for artists, journalists, citizens to be together, to, encounter the future together, right? So, but I think it's time always it's quick. After warming up.
That was fast.
Yeah, really quick. But thank you very much, host.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Ogawa-san,
really.
for having
Yeah,
me here.
great. Always, nice conversation from morning. Nice morning session, and I hope you enjoy it. This kind of half journey, and because after this 10 minutes break, we are taking another, remaining journey together. So, but once again, thank you, host.
And thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the journey as well with Hide.
Yeah, stay tuned, and let's go to next journey in 10 minutes. Bye-bye. everyone, welcome back to
Hello.
the artistic journalism. And the second portion is still in the deep space. And I found a great person, Christoph Kremer, who is the managing director of Ars Electronica Center. And we just showed the wonderful presentation by NORAP. And Prima Materia is a project to utilize the deep space fully. And as I said, this session is, I would like to focus on the meaning as platform for artistic journalism. And Christopher is the best person to explain, how he is utilizing this is a place to create a new dialogue to the public. So Christopher, please.
Yeah, as we have seen with this Prima Materia, it is an artistic approach for the way all the things in our world, in our universe, developed the last millions of years. It's the idea of the alchemists, that there is a prima materia, and this prima materia, this first materia, is the basis for all of this. And this was the journey we've seen here, and this is an artistic approach. And we are really convinced that this artistic approaches enables us to communicate in a much directly and emotional way with our visitors, with the public. And I think this is all this about artistic journalism. It's, in my opinion, one of this really interesting things is the emotional part, that we can reach the public, the one who want we to reach, not in the brain phase, but in the emotional phase. And I think this is the possibilities in this room to really address the emotional part of our humans, and then we can directly can go into discussions. The second project I want to present is also really artistic, with an artistic background.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's called cinematic rendering, and cinematic is the hint for us to see the artistic part. It was inspired by the Lord of the Rings saga by Gollum, and the researcher from Siemens watched this movie and said, okay, this Gollum quality, the way the Gollum was visualized, I want to have this for my medical data. And he made a joint venture with the special effect guys from the Lord of the Rings saga. And in this case, they really created the same thing for the Gollum for medical data. And what we fear is not some computer visualization in the classical way. It's a computer tomography data visualized by this way of getting cinematic rendering into it. And now I can go into this body, for example, and I can now explain the whole anatomy of this living human who was in the computer tomography to the public. So I have this artistic approach because, of course, as better as these visualizations are, as more we are touched.
Absolutely, and this is completely different to reading the newspaper, huh?
Absolutely, and if you hear about, okay, there is a big danger in having, show it to you, in having a disease like gigantic aneurysm. You read about it. But when you see, okay, a gigantic aneurysm looks like this, and for example, this patient got really lucky. It was easy. It was early enough to detect this gigantic aneurysm, and the treatment was really well. But we can touch all our visitors by showing this. This is an gigantic aneurysm, and be sure if you have headache and it's not going away after 1 or 2 days, go to the hospital and try to find out what is the reason for this. And in this case, we have this computer tomography, we have this visualization, and we can show what is happening inside our human body. And this is, of course, one of our greatest possibilities we have in this deep space to really address the emotional side and to go deep into the things what is really important and what we want to deliver. I think this is the thing when we want to deliver things like it is important to be aware that your body is wonderful, but of course there are some things that are dangerous, then we can use this. You want to add something to cinematic rendering?
No, by the way, this project is also, a project developed by Ars Electronica Futurelab.
Of course.
And very interesting thing is now, this is also used for the local, students to learn about this, our body. And recently, this system is also integrated into the local university. So just imagine, this physical, really environment to dive into such scientific discourses can be also used for such medical education and also developing the scientific discourses as well.
Yes.
But it's all about for the public awareness and also discussing the mystery of ourselves, right?
Absolutely. I was there yesterday, and it was great to see how directly it approaches really not only the students, also the specialists, and everyone is touched by seeing the quality of this cinematic rendering. And the third project we want to take a look at is again from the Ars Electronica Futurelab, so all three. So the No Lab, the cinematic rendering, and now the pyramid of Gizeh. They are all three projects from our Ars Electronica Futurelab, and they are also in one special project, Immersify, was funded by Horizon 2020 from the European Union. And there it was the idea to really target a little bit, similar to the artistic journalism, but it's more precisely on how can we use immersive data settings for, to step down here to start the video, how can we use immersive data for communicating with the public? And what are the really big advantages by using this? And what we've got here is the third example. The first was our great journey from the prima materia, then the inside of the human body. And now I think this is fascinating. One of the really iconic buildings in our world, more than 5,000 years old. And of course, it's the grave of Pharaoh Cheops. And so in this case, now the story is of course getting into the circle, because we started with the prima materia, where everything started. Then we got further with the inside of the human body, and now we are looking into one of the hugest graves ever created. So this is the ending point of every human life, of course, and we can really talk about how massive, how enormous the effort was, what the Egyptians 5,000 years ago put into this project to create this huge grave, this huge pyramid for the pharaoh. And we see here in the middle, we see two chambers, and the chambers, the highest chambers is the chamber from Cheops, from the pharaoh. The middle one here is the chamber from his wife, and we see here above, 20 meters above the surface of the earth, a third chamber which was used as a fallback. If something happened during the building of this pyramid, they could have buried the pharaoh there. And I can now show a little bit around why this is so special. So this is not only a normal video, it's 360 degrees. So I can really, with my Xbox controller, I can decide in which direction I want to take you and me and our visitors. It's 16K resolution, so really high. And when you are in deep space in Linz, it's also in 3D. So this is unique. And now we dive into one of these corridors, and we have really the possibility to crawl through this pyramid in a virtual way. And again, what do we want to deliver? How do we want to deliver this? Now we can really decide, want we to take a focus on ecology easily by using this? Or do we want, take a look, step here? Or we want to talk about all these possibilities what we humans have 5,000 years ago, and how long our development as a society is and all these things. So And you have this great artistic approach, and this delivers and this addresses the emotional part, and so we can really get into a really wonderful and senseful communication. Normally we should now, okay, we are standing here on the area where we can decide to crawl into the chamber of Keops.
But as you experienced today, you know, this is from past, you know, all information, but by utilizing the latest, you know, laser tracking, you know, scanning technology, this is also creating the new opportunity for understanding the past, you know, history and also inventions. What if, you know, in 21st century, not just, you know, from the newspaper or TVs, if we have any new tools, you know, to capture the now, and also in different, you know, perspective like 3D, you know, if there is one happening, what if this is visualized in this way as 3D dimensional? It's completely different way to understand the history or the moment, because in the traditional history or such, you know, things was always overwritten in the context of the storytelling, right? By, in a way, winner's story, you know. But in 21st century, you guys have your own mobiles, you know, such multiple eyes are, you know, going together. And what if, you know, it's mapped together in this way? What's gonna be the meaning of the future of history or future of journalism to see exactly not just movies, but the space. So I think this is a really wonderful advantage by utilizing in the deep space. Christoph, maybe the final question. As you, in a way, educator, you know, so how do you feel about the importance of the role of artistic journalism in education, especially? You know, in your daily, you know, everyday's work, of course, you have many teachers and pupils, not just here, but through the house of Ars Electronica Center, where it's full of micro-future, in a way, artistic journalisms. How does it work, and what's the role of such, you know, artistic practice in the education?
We are opening up these topics. It's a playful way to get into the discussion, because what we are convinced is it's not that important that everybody knows exactly how the things all work in the technical side, but it's really important to think about what are the influences onto our society, onto the personal situation, and by using these artistic works, we are easier to opening up the discussions, because it's easier to get the feeling, okay, now I understand it a little bit. Of course, it's really complex to think about Internet of Things or artificial intelligence or biotechnology, but if there are good artistic works, you can get into the discussion whether or not you are an expert or not. And we have to have this discussion with this, and this is what we think is as education is important to enable the discussion on at least a nice level and an interest. You have to be interested in the things. And this is what we are really sure is that the artworks are helping the audience getting sort of into the discussion of important topics.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just knowing, but experiencing, right? So it's completely different. Knowing is just, yeah, I know. But the experience is different level, yeah. And therefore we can, you know, discuss such, you know, deep point together. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it today. It's time already. Today was a second edition on artistic journalism, and we focus on the Alchemists of the future, which was the way to create such an artistic journalism, and who can make the artistic journalism, how to create the platform, and through many examples like deep space and other installations, as well as Christoph and Horst's really wonderful guides today. I hope you understood the components to form the artistic journalism. So the next public lecture will be in 2 weeks. It's going to be focusing on there is no planet B, and actually Christoph Kramer and me, we are doing the public lecture again as a live, and we are very hoping to see you guys soon. And then let's finish today. Yeah?
Thanks a lot, Hidi.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you, Christoph.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.